Hello everyone, I'm Jay, your host at Everything Cloud Platform. Welcome to this session on gcloud. Gcloud stands for Google Command Line Interface. It's a set of tools that you can use on your computer from CLI to interact with Google Cloud Platform. Google's suite of cloud computing services and everything within GCP console. Imagine it as a remote control for your GCP services, letting you perform various tasks through commands instead of using the GCP console. With gcloud, you can create and manage your computing resources like your VMs or container clusters. You can store and manage data and services like, let's say, storage or Bigtable. You can analyze data using powerful tools like BigQuery and Dataproc. You can set up and manage security and networking for your GCP resources, all from your command line. And it helps in automating the tasks, right? Because you're doing everything in command line. gcloud is a powerful tool for developers, system administrators, and anyone who wants to manage GCP resources efficiently. It's also a great way to automate tasks and build scripts for managing your cloud infrastructure. So what are we going to do in this session? This session, we can't possibly go over like everything gcloud can do. It's vast. It's huge. The possibilities are endless. Instead, what I'll teach you in this session is to fish rather than give you the fish. I'll teach you gcloud command format and where to find help, and this will enable you to write effective gcloud commands for anything you might be wanting to do in GCP. So let's go. Here is the agenda for the session today. We'll start with seeing how you can help yourselves. Look at the Google official documentation, look at cheat sheets and more. We'll then look at how do you go about obtaining the interactive help or using the interactive help right from your CLI. We'll then look at various ways of formatting your output. Finally, we'll look at how do you go about filtering and sorting your results. And these are generic things that you will be able to apply to anything that you are wanting to do with gcloud using CLI. Here is how you go about helping yourselves with gcloud. There are many avenues that you will be able to use as you are working in gcloud in GCP. First and foremost, installation. Rely on Google documentation a lot. I find Google documentation very helpful. I'm not going to be reinventing the wheel by just telling you something that's already very obvious, very well written down, laid out in Google documentation. So we are not going to be reinventing the wheel here. So this is the installation steps for gcloud for various systems that you might be in. So just follow this documentation. If you haven't already installed, just go ahead and install, and you will be good to go. So that's your installation. Then there are a couple of avenues on that are available to you for cheat sheet. All right. So there is an official page of gcloud cheat sheet. If you just Google it up, and you will land to this page that has some basic commands that you can just get started with real quick right from here. So you'll get a hang of what you can do to start with, like gcloud auth login, gcloud init. So these are some of the initial commands that you will need to do as you are getting yourselves connected to your GCP console from your terminal. So these are some examples of basic commands that interact with the most popularly used services within GCP. So that's how you look at the cheat sheet in browser from Google documentation. You can also look at the cheat sheet right within the terminal. So if I do a gcloud cheat sheet, this gives you more or less the same output that you saw here, but available to you right within your terminal as you are working. I find this very helpful as I'm trying to get some quick help. So if you keep pressing the space bar, you will keep scrolling down on this cheat sheet page, and you'll be able to use some of these commands as if you are struggling to find out what you want to do. Let's make this help a little more interactive. And this will be needed when you're trying to apply the help for the specific scenario or situation you might be in. Now, before I demonstrate the interactive help, I will show you something from the documentation on how a gcloud command really is structured. So look at this: gcloud plus release level plus component plus entity plus operation plus positional arguments plus flags. That's the standard way how a gcloud command is structured. If you understand this, you will be able to apply and use gcloud for whatever situation you might be in, right? So let's see. Now they have given you the document specifies a very good example here as well. gcloud, there is no release level here, the release level is applied for alpha and beta commands only, not for the GA release. For the most part, you'll be using the GA commands, so there is no release here. So this compute is basically this component. Instances is the entity, meaning within compute you have instances. For example, within containers you will have clusters, and so on and so forth. Now operation is either a create or a delete or a list or describe, whatever you're trying to do. So that's the operation. Positional argument is the name of the instance on which you are doing this operation on. And then there are flags that you can apply. Then there are flags are like format, filter, and you'll see some of those as we move forward. But that's the structure of a gcloud command. Now coming back to the gcloud help here, if you look at gcloud help here, now there, don't get confused with this group. This group basically is equivalent to what you saw here as component or entity. Both of these will get called as groups in the gcloud help that you're trying to obtain within the terminal. So if you keep hitting the space bar, you will scroll down on what kind of help is available. So this is telling you that within gcloud you will need to have a group and then a command and flags and so on and so forth, and these are the options that are available to you to be used. These are the groups. For example, compute is going to be a group in here that we will be playing with. Machine types is another group, and so on and so forth. So for whatever, think about these groups as the services out there, like Cloud Run. There will be a group for Cloud Run here as well. That's called gcloud run, I think. So this is the compute that we will be using. Data flow, data catalog, container. If you're playing with Kubernetes, you will use container commands a lot. I will show you a couple others as well that we might be interacting with. Yeah, run. That's your manage your gcloud run applications. So that's how that's the first level of help that you will obtain. I hit Q, I come back to my command line terminal. I clear the screen. Now let's see. Say if we want to dig deeper into compute, and you can now get the next level of help within compute. So I do a gcloud compute, and now this will show me the options available for compute. Now the groups is basically a subgroup within compute. If you scroll down by hitting the space bar, you will see that I can do a gcloud compute disks, I can do a gcloud compute firewall rules, and within the firewall rules I can list, create, update, delete, and so on and so forth. We will play a little bit with instances here. So I'm doing gcloud compute instances, and then I'll be able to do all kinds of operations on instances or machine types for that matter. So that's how you get into the next level of help. So now I'll clear the screen. Let me go gcloud compute instances, and now I get the next level of help. What all can I do with my instances? Now this is going to tell me what all I can do. These are the commands that I can apply. I can add labels, I can add metadata, I can do all of that. I can delete, I can describe, I can list, and those are some of the options that we will be using as we look at some of this. So that's how you go about finding the help here. So based on what I saw, what if I just want to do a list? There you go. So I was able to figure out how do I list compute instances. This is how you go about using the gcloud interactive help available to you right within your terminal. This is how you go about formatting your output. Say if I run a gcloud simple gcloud compute instances list, that gives me a standard output from this command. Gives me the name, zone, machine type, internal IP, external IP, status, etc. What if I want to customize this output per my need? What if I want a CSV, my output in a CSV format, comma delimited, or if I want a JSON output or a YAML? Or what if I do not want all of these columns? What if I want to see different information pertaining to my machine? There are all sorts of possible combination scenarios or needs that you might run into. And gcloud provides a way to format your output to what you need. So let's see. Maybe double dashes format is the flag you use for these commands. So if I do a format with CSV, no heading, name, you just get the name. You just formatted your output to just give you the name, for example. That's what you used a simple format flag for. If I remove that no heading in the square bracket call out from there, now you will see the heading as well, right? So this is how you go about playing simply, configuring your output here. But what if I what if I need multiple columns? You can absolutely play around with this and have comma separated values in there. Say I throw in zone in there as well. And now I get the name and the zone in a comma separated way. That's easy to do. Now we want to do something a little more complicated. Say we have two VMs running here. Now a VM, if I do a compute, let's do this. If I do a gcloud compute instances describe SRE terminal, look at this output. That gives you a lot of output, lot of interesting output. This is like everything about your VM. So if you get to your VM from the GCP console, you'll be able to see some of the information on GCP console as well. But the advantage with getting some of this information here in the terminal is you'll be able to apply your automation, do something, because this is in terminal. You can use your bash and Python to apply the for loops, while loops, apply some logic, conditional based logic based on the information that you have available using gcloud. Now this is giving you all kinds of information pertaining to that terminal. I'll point out some specific things that we specifically did when we were creating this SRE terminal. There are other videos in the session in my in the repository that you will be able to look at when we created this SRE terminal. For example, provisioned by flag. That is specific. If you want to pull this into your output, how do you go about doing that? Say if you want to pull some specific output around your startup scenario, look at this startup script. You have the entire startup script available in the describe option here. That's the name of your machine. Those are network interfaces, scheduling, all sorts of information that is available here. And you should be able to use any of this to be included in your output. And that's what we are going to be seeing next. So here is how you go about doing that. Maybe let me just first apply a quick filter so that we are just looking at our SRE terminal VM, not both of them. So in my list, I have two VMs currently. I want to limit this output to say just SRE terminal. And the way I do is we'll just apply a quick filter on the name and the name, say in the VM variable, you have the VM name, SRE terminal. You just applied that filter criteria. Now you're seeing in the output, you just have SRE terminal VM showing up, and we'll use look at filter and sort results in a little in depth in the next session. But this is the SRE terminal. Now, what I want to do is I want to format this output in JSON, right? That's what I want to do. / format, and just look at that output right here in the terminal. So here you go. You have your output. Everything that you saw and described is now showing up in the JSON format. What I can now do is I can just pipe this output to a file called sreterminal.json. Let's just save that file. If I do an ls in this folder, I am currently in this folder. If I do an ls, we just created a file called sreterminal.json, right? Now, what I want to do is I want to get this output in YAML format as well. Let's look at the YAML format output once. This is mostly what you saw when you described the VM. This is in the same format. Let's just save this as well in sreterminal.yaml. Now we'll look at how these two files side by side look like, and then we will use some of the information that you see in these files in our search criteria to format the results per what we want. On the left is the JSON output. On the right is the YAML output. So if you just compare side by side, you're seeing the same information available. Of course, it's the same VM that you just described. It's just the output format that is different. Now, if you go about reading through this, I'll point out a couple of things. For example, this disk size GB. What if I want to pull this particular value in my output? How do I go about doing that? Just scroll through this. You will see, look at the startup script. The entire thing is available very neatly here if you want to use it for some other purposes. The same startup script here in the JSON, you'll find it a little less readable format, because the entire script is in one line there. If you just scroll to the right, you will see that entire startup script is in that one line. But this you get the idea. You have the output in both formats. Now it's important to look at the output in this format, and then you will be able to use any of these fields. Like, you'll think about navigating to a particular field using dots here. Say, for example, if I want to get to network IP, I'll use network interfaces dot network IP in my format criteria, and I'll be able to get to that field. I'll be able to use disks dot disk size GB, and I'll be able to get to that particular field in my output. And here is how the command looks like. gcloud compute instances lists format CSV, the name, status, labels dot provisioned by, because you traverse through the labels, and within the labels you got to the provisioned by field. In the disks, you got the disk size GB field. If I run this command, I will see that I got the name, status, provisioned by, disk size GB, and this is the first line output for SRE terminal, and this is the second line output for the VM Debian. Notice that there is a blank here, and that is because the labels.provisioned by field is not configured for VM Debian. And we can just take a quick peek at compute instances describe, say, VM Debian, and you won't find the labels.provisioned by in there. If I scroll up and get to the labels field, there's no label there. And if I do the same thing for SRE terminal, I will see that there is a label that has been applied that has that value called gcloud. And that's what you are seeing in your output. One more thing that you can do to make your output a little, prettier is do something like table and say a box in there, and that box option really formats your output in a neater format. If that makes you happy to see the output in this format, go ahead and use this option. So that's all with all the formatting options that you can apply to your gcloud commands. This will pretty much work. The same kind of modus operandi will work for any kind of gcloud command that you might be running. In this example, we'll look at how do we filter and sort results. Say, for example, if you are running a command that returns a lot of output, like this one, I do a machine types list, and that gives me a huge output. It took a lot of time to complete this, and if you scroll up you will see that it came in with a lot of rows. It's a huge output. What if I want to run this again and type the output to wc just to see how many rows this output returned? This returned a total of 16,576 rows. Well, that's a lot. And say I do not want this much of output, and I'm trying to just look for machine types that are in my zone and the machine types that I can use for my infrastructure, and I'm trying to narrow down my search results. That's where you will need to use your filter criteria to really narrow down the results. And here is how you go about doing this. So the first criteria that you apply is, say I want to apply exact criteria to really narrow it down by, say, my zone. So if I would want to do something like this, say on the last previous command, what I can do is, if I do a compute machine types list and apply this filter criteria, so I'm saying zone US East 1B. I just applied a filter criteria to filter my 16,576 results, filter out only the machine types in my zone US East 1B. So that gave me all the machine types only in US East 1B. If I do a quick WC, type the output to word count, and take a look at how that 16,576 got reduced to just US East 1B machine types. So that narrowed down my results to just 216, right? So these 216 machine types are available in US East 1B zone, right? If you we started from here and we came down to 216. Nice. Now say I want to narrow this down further to just look for, say, only the high CPU machines. That's what I want to narrow down my results to. Now that would mean I need to apply a partial search. Now, before I apply that partial search, let's look at one more feature. Let's describe one of the machines here. Say we are interested in the high CPU one. Let's describe a high CPU machine and see what kind of output does that give us. So if I run a command like we are just trying to describe a machine here. So I just describe a machine called this. That gives me this kind of output. It gives me all the fields pertaining to it. The reason I pulled this output was we want to be able to apply a search criteria based on the name, right? We want to filter out for all high CPU machines. And this filter criteria needs to be a partial search. Unlike the previous search that we ran for exact zone matching exactly US East 1B. Now we want to add one more criteria so that we narrow down these 216 to filter out only for the machine names with high CPU in it. Let me clear the screen before we run that command. Yeah. So that's my command. Look at the criteria format there. in the filter. That's the syntax. So you're using that tilde to really filter out for your high CPU in the name. And the reason we described in the previous command was to get how that name is really spelled out. Now you have narrowed down your results to even further, right? It's just the high CPU machines is what you're seeing. Let me pipe this output again to WC. So from 16,576 to 216 odd to these handful output results that we have narrowed this down to. So we have narrowed down our results from further down from 216 to 54. Now, say if I want to further, I'm interested in the N1 family of machines. So we have 6 machine families in GCP. I just want to narrow this down to only 2 N1 machines, and this is how I go about doing that. I clear my screen. I add one more criteria. So what I did was I added one more criteria that has name N1 in it, and I run this command. And this will further narrow the 54 results down to only N1 high CPU machines in zone US East 1B. And these will only be a handful. There you go. So you just have like 7 machines. So we know now we have a very good output with us. We have like 7 N1 high CPU machine type options to choose from. Now I want to further say modify this output to just add my sorting criteria. Say I want to sort this output based on CPUs followed by memory GB, and I can very well now apply just this sort by flag with a comma separated values of the fields that you want to use. If I run this command, that will give me a very neat sorted output for the machine types matching my filter criteria sorted by CPUs and memory GB. Here is the output. That just gives me the output sorted very nicely and neatly by CPUs and memory. So here is everything. That was everything on how you can go about applying filtering and sorting your results. And you can apply the same logic, same rationale to pretty much every kind of output that you get from gcloud. Here is the recap of what we did in this session so far. We looked at ways of helping yourselves, looking at the Google Cloud official documentation, looking at cheat sheets, and more. We looked at how do you go about using the CLI interactive help and really making it work for you. We looked at various formatting options using the compute instances, list, describe, and so on and so forth. We looked at various filtering and sorting, ways of filtering and sorting your output to really get and extract the information you're trying to extract. Well, that brings us to the end of this video. If you like the content, please do subscribe the channel and hit the bell icon to get notifications when new videos are posted. If you are genuinely interested in learning all the foundational skills pertaining to SRE and platform engineering in general, and all the skills that we in general talk about on Everything Cloud Platform, stick around and follow along all the videos that are posted. I'm sure you had a wonderful time, and I will see you in the next session.